All right, so Google's making a lot of noise with their new AI. People are calling it a ChatGPT killer. And honestly, I'm a little nervous about this one. You sent me a bunch of articles, podcasts to look at.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of buzz.
yeah, even I'm a little nervous about this.
Yeah, it's understandable. I mean, Google's being pretty secretive.
Yeah.
They're keeping the name under wraps, which kind of adds to the mystery.
Yeah, one podcast even called their episode Google's new AI just changed everything.
Right. So they're really playing it up.
They're really hyping this thing up.
Yeah.
But from what I've gathered so far,
Yeah.
and what you've sent over, it seems like Google's taking a totally different approach than OpenAI did
Oh, absolutely.
with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So like instead of being trained on a fixed data set like ChatGPT, this new AI, it taps directly into real-time information from Google search,
Exactly. That's the core difference.
which is kind of wild.
Yeah.
It is. Imagine having access to like every update, every news story, every bit of data
Right.
the moment it hits the web. That's the
yeah.
potential here. And it's
Yeah.
constantly learning and evolving,
Yeah.
which could lead to some pretty mind-blowing capabilities.
Okay, but hold on. Doesn't that also mean that it's like drinking from a fire hose? Of all the information on the internet, what about all the misinformation and just the garbage that's out there? Would that make the AI less reliable?
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
Like, how do you filter that?
Right. It's like the difference between a scholar carefully studying a curated library versus someone scrolling through like a chaotic social media feed.
Right.
Right. ChatGPT, with its focus on accuracy, is more like the scholar,
Right.
while Google's new AI seems to be embracing the chaos of the real-time web.
So are they sacrificing accuracy for speed?
Potentially.
That's a tough trade-off.
It is, and that's a key question I think we need to explore. But before we get too deep into like the philosophical debate here, let's look at what this AI can actually do.
Okay.
The sources that you sent highlight 3 key features: live internet access, multimodal capabilities, and self-improving algorithms.
Okay, break those down for me. Especially that multimodal thing. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It kind of is. Multimodal means that this AI can work with more than just text. It can analyze images, it can write scripts, it can even generate videos based on your instructions.
Really?
Yeah.
So I could say like,
Imagine being able to describe a scene
yeah.
and the AI creates a movie out of it.
Whoa, that's insane.
Right.
But also kind of scary. Like,
Yeah.
what if somebody used that to
Yeah.
create fake news videos or something like that?
Absolutely.
That look totally real.
That's definitely a concern and something I think we'll want to discuss further.
Yeah.
But for now, let's move on to the third feature: self-improving algorithms.
Okay, what does that even mean? Does it like give itself software updates or something?
Not exactly. It's more like it's constantly learning and getting better with every interaction. So think of it like a student who studies nonstop
Right.
and gets smarter with every lesson. The more data this AI processes, the more refined its responses become.
So it's not just accessing information. It's
Yeah.
actually getting smarter over time.
Yeah.
That's both impressive and a little unnerving.
Yeah.
But how does this stack up against ChatGPT? I mean, ChatGPT-4 is already incredibly powerful.
Right. You're right. ChatGPT-4 is a powerhouse. It can understand complex language. It can generate creative text formats and even answer your questions in an incredibly conversational way.
Yeah.
But its knowledge is limited to the data that it was trained on.
Okay.
It can't tap into the ever-changing flow of information like
Yeah.
Google's AI supposedly can.
So it's kind of a battle between a seasoned expert with a vast library and a quick learner who's always plugged into the latest news.
Yeah.
This is getting interesting.
It is, and that brings us back to the question of accuracy versus speed. OpenAI with ChatGPT prioritizes carefully curated knowledge, even if it means being a step behind on the very latest.
Right.
Google, on the other hand, seems to be betting on the power of real-time learning, even with the potential for errors.
That's a tough choice. Yeah. It's like choosing between a wise old professor and a brilliant young student who's always on the cutting edge.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who I would trust more.
And that's exactly the kind of dilemma I think we need to unpack when thinking about the future of AI. It's not just about the technology itself. but about the values and priorities that shape its development.
Right. Okay, so we've talked about some of the downsides of this new AI,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to accuracy. But I want to talk about the flip side. What kind of amazing things could this unlock?
Oh, the possibilities are pretty incredible. Think about it, an AI that can process and understand information from the real world in real time. That could revolutionize entire industries.
All right, give me an example. I need to wrap my head around this.
Okay. Let's say you're an urban planner and you're trying to optimize traffic flow in a city. This AI could analyze live data from traffic cameras, GPS devices, even social media posts about traffic jams to create a dynamic model of the city's entire transportation network.
Wow.
And then it could suggest real-time adjustments to traffic light timing road closures or even public transportation routes to keep things moving smoothly.
So it'd be like having a super intelligent traffic conductor for the entire city.
Exactly. And it's not just about efficiency.
Right.
This kind of AI could also be used to improve public safety, respond to emergencies more effectively, and even personalize transportation options based on individual needs.
So it's not just about making things faster, it's about making them smarter and more responsive to what's happening right now.
Precisely.
I'm starting to see the potential here.
Yeah, and remember, this is just one example. We could apply this same real-time learning capability to fields like healthcare, education, finance, even entertainment.
Healthcare. How would an AI like this change things for doctors and patients?
Well, imagine a world where a doctor can access a patient's entire medical history, the latest research on their condition, even real-time feedback from wearable health sensors, all at once.
So the AI could help doctors make more informed decisions, maybe even catch things that humans might miss.
Exactly. It could personalize treatment plans, predict potential complications, and even assist with surgery by providing real-time guidance based on the patient's unique anatomy and the surgeon's movements.
Okay, now that's some serious sci-fi stuff right there.
It is pretty futuristic.
But are there any examples of this kind of AI being used right now in the real world?
There are. I mean, we're not at the level of AI surgeons just yet, but we're already seeing AI being used to analyze medical images for faster and more accurate diagnoses. It can also predict patient outcomes based on real-time data and even develop personalized drug therapies.
So even though this Google AI is still shrouded in mystery, the technology that it represents is already starting to make a real-world impact.
Absolutely.
This is pretty mind-blowing stuff.
It is. And as this technology continues to develop, I think we're going to see a fundamental shift in how we interact with information and how we solve complex problems.
All right, before we get too carried away with all the possibilities here, let's circle back to that question of accuracy versus speed. Even if this AI can do all these amazing things, can we really trust it if it's constantly pulling information from the wild west of the internet?
Well, that's a question that researchers are grappling with right now, and it's not an easy one to answer.
So how do we balance the incredible potential of real-time learning with the need for reliable and accurate information?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
It seems like the million-dollar question.
It is, and there's no simple solution. It's going to require a multifaceted approach that involves technical innovation, ethical considerations, and an ongoing dialogue between developers, policymakers, and the public.
Okay, so we've talked about the benefits, the risks, and the big questions about accuracy and real-time learning, but there's one thing that I keep coming back to. How do we make sure that this powerful technology is used for good?
Yeah, that's the key challenge, isn't it? It's like we've been given the keys to a supersonic jet, but no flight manual. We need to figure out the controls and make sure we're flying in the right direction.
So what's being done to steer AI development in a positive direction?
Well, there are a lot of discussions happening right now around AI ethics and governance. Governments, researchers, even tech companies are starting to realize that we can't just let this technology develop unchecked.
Okay, so what does that look like? Like, give me a concrete example.
Okay, well, one area of focus is transparency. So think of it this way. If an AI is making decisions that affect people's lives, we need to be able to understand how it's arriving at those decisions.
Right.
It can't be a black box where data goes in and judgments come out with no explanation.
Like if an AI is helping doctors make diagnoses, we need to know what factors it's considering and why.
Exactly.
Yeah, no blind trust.
Right, and another important area is accountability. Like, if an AI makes a mistake, who's responsible? Is it the developers, the users, or the AI itself? These are complex questions that we need to figure out as AI becomes more integrated into our lives.
It's almost like we need a whole new legal framework for AI,
Right.
like robot laws or something.
Right. Straight out of science fiction.
Yeah.
It might sound far-fetched,
Yeah.
but that's the kind of thinking we need to be doing. The legal and ethical implications of AI are going to become increasingly important as this technology continues to advance.
So we've got the experts working on the big picture stuff. But what about us? What about us everyday users? What can we do to navigate this AI-powered world?
I think the most important thing is critical thinking. Now more than ever, we need to be discerning consumers of information.
Okay.
Don't just blindly accept what an AI tells you, even if it sounds really convincing.
So we need to develop a healthy skepticism towards AI.
Exactly.
Not fear, but a willingness to question and verify.
Right. Ask yourself, where is this information coming from? What are the potential biases of the AI that generated it? And always seek out multiple perspectives before forming an opinion.
It's like that old saying, trust but verify.
Yeah.
But with AI, it's more like verify, then maybe trust a little bit.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And remember, you're not alone in this. There are resources out there to help you navigate this new landscape. There are organizations working to educate the public about AI, and online tools are being developed to help detect AI-generated content.
So it's not all doom and gloom. There are people working to make sure that AI is used responsibly. And we as users have a role to play in demanding transparency and accountability.
Absolutely. And I think that's the most important takeaway from this whole deep dive. AI is a powerful tool, but it's up to us to shape its development and make sure it's used for good.
Well said. So to wrap things up, I think we've explored the excitement, the potential, and the very real concerns around Google's new AI. And while there's still a lot of unknowns, one thing is for sure. The AI revolution is here, and it's going to change the world as we know it.
Yeah, it's a fascinating time to be alive, wouldn't you say?
It really is.
Full of challenges, yes, but also incredible opportunities.
I think so too. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive. And to you, our listener, thanks for sending us these thought-provoking sources. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and let's navigate this AI future together. Until next time.